Venture Basecamp Pro Tips for Pitching. We're going to dive a little deeper into some actual tips that I want you to think about as you pitch, whether it's an introductory pitch or whether it's a full investor pitch. We're going to go through a lot of detail in subsequent modules, really walking through every aspect of what you do because we want you to get this right. We want you to be successful. Now, before I share some basic tips with you about presentations, I'd highly recommend you go through the example presentations that we provided for you in our resources section. There are some amazing presentations that highlight the best practices as well as presentations that convey how you can fail to connect with your audience. And when you're not following the best practices, what happens? We've put together some tips on presenting that have been gathered, refined, and used all over the world. First, impression matters. You've heard the adage before, you only have one chance to make a first impression. Remember, as I mentioned before, the super investor Ron Conway says, I make most of my investment decisions within 10 minutes of meeting an entrepreneur, really in 2 minutes. He's a legendary Silicon Valley startup angel investor. He's made hundreds of investments, including unicorns like Google, Facebook, Airbnb. He's a guy who has seen a lot of pitch decks. He's seen the best in the world, but he really makes a decision based on the people he sees. Mr. Conway is like most other investors, deeply experienced, which allows them to quickly determine if you're the kind of entrepreneur they want to back. Everything you do in the first 5 minutes is being scrutinized consciously and unconsciously. You want your investor thinking, I like this entrepreneur. I'd like to back him or her. I want to find out more. Make a great first impression. Next, hook them early. The first step in each presentation is to hook your audience. To do that, you need to think like your audience. You need to tell the story from their perspective in a way that's very high level, simple, and compelling. Connect them to the problem, the product or technology, and most importantly, connect them to you. Make sure the problem resonates. Prove that this problem is worth solving. You want to make sure that people understand that this is a significant problem that needs to be solved, and people will pay for it now. And you're going to be in an audience full of people that are problem solvers. This audience will include angel investors. So if your problem resonates with them, they're going to want to help you solve that problem, help you with your business. Next, what's your story? What's most exciting about your startup, your team, your traction, your tech, your vision? One good approach to ensure that your pitch resonates is by starting with a compelling story. Tell a story about a typical customer. Describe the problem they had and how it impacted them, how it frustrated them. Then paint a picture of them with your solution. Not only telling about the solution itself, but about how it positively impacted them, changed their life, made them happier, why they love you. Then talk about what's most exciting about your startup. What's the angle that you use to position yourself uniquely? What's really exciting about the team and the depth of experience that you have to solve this particular problem? Have you already generated traction with your startup? Talk about it. Is there a significant technology that can impact tons of people around the world? Or is it just a vision? Start with a story. Next, avoid using jargon and buzzwords. Never assume your audience knows what you know. Jargon and buzzwords don't resonate with an audience. You need to make sure that the language is simple, easy, and very, very understandable. No 3-letter acronyms. Make sure you can talk to your audience regardless of their background and help them understand what you're trying to do in a way that they can understand. Again, a story will really help you with this. Don't assume the audience has the same subject matter expertise that you have. Choose your words to explain to your mother or to your niece. Don't be patronizing, but make it simple. A good story will help. Keep it clean and simple. The 10-20-30 rule. Guy Kawasaki, a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, has a simple rule on presentations that I like. The pitch shouldn't be more than 10 slides. It shouldn't ever go longer than 20 minutes. And the size of the font you use in your slides should never be less than 30 points. There's a lot more to presenting and the format in presentations that we'll discuss. But for now, at the highest level, you want people paying attention to you, not reading your slides. This is one of the biggest and most consistent mistakes the people who pitch make. Next, are you ready for this? Be the doctor. No, this isn't a medical company, but be the doctor. Be calm, confident, and know your stuff. When you go into a doctor's office, something happens. You assume they're an expert, and you do what they tell you. 20 minutes after you meet a doctor, they say, I'm going to cut open your body and I'm going to take out one of your organs. And you say, oh, okay. What happened? Somehow, what the doctor was wearing, where they were, their degree, there were a whole bunch of things that were going on subtly between you and the doctor, where you trusted them. You trusted them to operate on you, to cut you open and take something out. You need to be the doctor. You're going to do a walletectomy. You're going to go in and take the wallet and their funds out of their pocket. You need to have the poise, confidence, authority, expertise, and trust factor that makes your investor say, sure, here's my wallet. Here's another important element. Picture over words. Whenever possible in your presentation, use pictures to replace words. Remember, you want your audience looking at and paying attention to you and getting a picture. They invest in you. If you can convey something with a picture, or if the picture on your slide supports the words that you're saying, it's going to really help. This will not only create the emotional connection, but it will also increase engagement in the brain of your audience and your investor. Next, internalize the best practices of others. Find pitches of startups that your investors are invested in and try to internalize what the best practices are within those pitches. That way, you'll know what kinds of pitches work best for your investors, and more importantly, what questions you're likely to be asked and what you need to answer through your pitch. And when you're looking at these pitches, examine what the things are that you like and you don't like. Remember, you have to wear this yourself. It has to be you who's speaking. What was it that make that particular pitch great in your mind? What are some questions that they raised for you? And think about the visuals, the slides that were part of these presentations. Did they provide the optimal support? Did they engage with the presenter? Did they connect with the audience? Or did they distract? Take a few moments and write these things down. Internalize these key points. Work on the points that you want to internalize the most and make sure you get them right as you go through the journey of building the best possible demo deck, demo pitch, and presentation with your investor. The last one is practice. Practice, practice. This is really important, and it's some of my best advice that I can give you that you can receive. I can't emphasize this enough. I've taught hundreds of people how to make presentations. I've taught people who are running corporations to make presentations. And I can't tell you how many people who are experts and capable public speakers who don't do well during their pitches because they don't practice. Let me explain to you why it's so important that when you give your investment pitch, it's perfect. Your key objective when you're talking to an investor is to get that investor on your side of the table. That happens by developing trust. And you have only 5 minutes to do that. 5 minutes to develop a relationship with an investor, as well as convince that investor that you are the best investment they can make out of 100 others that are standing outside their office. When you give your pitch and you're hesitant, or you forget something, or you stumble, the unasked question that goes on in the investor's mind is, Is that presenter unfamiliar with their own business? Does the presenter not remember things? Is the presenter not articulate in front of his own customers? Does the presenter not know the answers to the questions they need to know as a business because they don't know the answers to the questions in a pitch? By knowing your pitch, by speaking it slowly and carefully and confidently, and knowing it inside and out, you set an impression with me as an investor that you know your business inside and out, that you're confident, you're capable, and you're trustworthy. Yes, I've said this a lot of times. There's a reason. When I work with entrepreneurs on their pitch, I make them memorize it. I make them go through the slides and write down those words that they're going to say exactly. And then they hone them, and they hone them till they get them down to the essence of what they want to say. And then I make them practice it at least 50 times. Yes, 50 times the entire pitch. One concern that most people have, though, is if I just memorize this thing, I'll sound maybe like it's memorized. That's not the case if you do it this way. You just have to really memorize the pitch, not just barely memorize it. You've got to get it. If you do that, it's not going to sound memorized. If you practice it, then you can throw it away. You don't have to give the exact pitch that you memorized. You know all the elements. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in front of an audience. You're going to get in front of an investor. And you're going to get nervous. Once you know these words, inside and out, when you're in front of a large crowd, and there are lights on you, and the pressure's on, and you're feeling nervous, you'll still remember what to say. And you'll say it slowly and powerfully, and you'll articulate well. Your audience will get a sense of who you are and who you are in your business. If my advice means anything to you, you're going to really get to know your presentation, and you're going to practice it a lot.